Hey guys, so today you and I are going to talk about my motivation and startups. So let's get into it. So the question in question was, hey Frederick, do you have any motivation to start your own startup or do you plan on working at companies for the rest of your career? Well, I would say that I am a little bit of a special case, or maybe I'm not, maybe I just think I'm special. I like to think that I'm special. My girlfriends certainly tell me that I'm special, and so does my mom. They just do it in different ways. But I don't really care, and maybe that has been made apparent to you by if you've been tuning into the videos that I make, I don't really care how much money I make as long as it's enough to do all the things that I want, and I'm just fortunate enough to be a little bit, I would say, of a minimalist. I don't really care so much about having fancy things or anything like that. I really only care about my overall happiness, and luckily for me, the things that make me happy are fairly cheap. So, but that with that said, the thing that I do value above all else is my own sensation of fulfillment and my own learning experience, if that makes sense. My progression as a human and as a career. I mean, a career is part of what it means to be a human. Well, we can debate that, of course, but I hope that you see you kind of understand what I'm trying to say here. So I know for a fact that I cannot commit to anything that I find unfulfilling. So the answer to this question is that as long as I feel that there is some way for me to not have to or to continuously improve my skills in a way that feels fulfilling to me through having a job at a specific company or something like that, that's the only thing that I really care about. I really don't care all that much if I could make more money by starting my own company or not. That's not what's relevant for me, because the flip side of running a business is that there may be some people that tells you that it's all colors and rainbows, but it's actually a lot of work to run your own company, and that's the downside of running your own business. The plus side is if you make it, you can of course make a lot of money. But since that's not the factor that it takes anything from me, the only thing that really it all comes down to is would I find that to be a fulfilling thing? Now, I think that it's highly likely if I look at the current pace that I have progressed during my still fairly short amount of time within software engineering, it seems very likely to me that I will, before my career is over, have a side business or some type of company or something like that. I've already tried it once. I've already been part of a startup, which was my absolute first gig ever as a software developer, and I learned a lot from that. But it wasn't my own startup. I wasn't committed to it in the way that I probably should have been. But it was very useful to go through it. So that is, I think, the root answer to this question. That yes, it's very likely that I will run my own startup or a consulting business or something like that at some point, assuming, of course, that I reach the end of what I feel is going to stimulate me within just working for somebody else, if that makes sense. What's very fun, I think, is that I know that the thing that really gets me going is usually the thing that is very associated with startups, and that is to solve a specific sort of problem. And the idea of being an entrepreneur is something that flies fairly well in the modern, like in our current time period, which I think is very good because I have in many for a long time felt that I don't really have any, as I said, ambition to create a startup, and that's kind of sad. Like there, a startup that takes over the entire planet, which is the thing that a lot of the hungriest entrepreneurs are after, which I think is, as I said, it's a little bit sad. There is this idea that unless your idea has the growth potential to basically take over an entire industry or change the world, it's not worth trying. And so I think at the core of all of this, I want to try to see if, at least to start off with, if I can solve a small problem. It doesn't have to be a big one, just a problem that is small enough that it's worth my time, and it's interesting, of course, to do it, and see if can I make a sustainable business. It can even be a side income for all I care, like just something where I can create a small company that just goes well, and then learn from working in that small company. And sure, if that works out well and I still have the ambition, I'll take over the world in the next project. Maybe I'll build Google 2.0, and it's going to be the same thing. It's just going to have rainbows and a few unicorns, something like that. What's fun now for me is that one of my coworkers has actually started talking to me. He has a few friends who have a sort of business idea. Like they have a very small company these days, where they're doing consultancy work towards different companies and helping them with certain administrative tasks and so forth. And they have talked to my friend or my coworker, who's actually my teammate. So this is going to be fun, because if we go down doing this, it's going to be like you working in your. It will be literally the same thing in many ways as if we were married and working together, because he's my teammate, and then he's going to be my startup buddy, which means that we will practically spend every wake hour together. But we really like each other, so that's part of the fun, actually. So that's something that's actually upcoming for me, which I think this is, I hope, going to be one of those a small success story on the path towards me making something even more serious, because the goal of this company is not to take over the world. The goal of this company is, at least for me, to make an experiment. Because the system that they want built isn't all that complicated. It's still going to take time, of course, but what's interesting is the focus for me and my coworker is that we need to figure out a way to create a system that is going to do the thing that it's supposed to be doing, of course, but it also has to be so stable that it has virtually no maintenance requirements for us, which is, of course, the wet dream of anybody who wants to have a side income or passive income, as a lot of people are after these days. That's basically what we're going to have to try to make. Not necessarily because the ambition is to make a lot of money, but rather because there's no other way. Because if the system goes down, we both have full-time jobs, so we can't really just we can't just stop working at our company and go over and fix issues. So we really have to think about this. So what I want you to take away from this is that, yes, in more words than in a lot of words, yes, I will probably start my own startup or something similar to that at some point. I might argue that this product that I have talked to my coworker about might be just the thing, right? But it's never been my ambition to make a lot of money or do something like super big. If it turns out that way, that's great. I'm going to be super happy if it really turns out well. But I would never ever if I know myself, pick fame, fortune, or things like that over what I think is fun to do, because it's just not worth it for me. Because the way that I live my life is, its only goal, that is the only goal of my life, is to maximize fulfillment and enjoyment and personal development and all of these things. And I would never in a million years trade that for more cash or for people to know who I am or something like that. It's just, for me, not worth it. Have a great day.